Well, good afternoon. This is Superintendent Bedell with the Kansas City Public School District. I'm so happy to have all of you log in to listen to the live update that I want to provide our community, our faculty, students, and members of the district. As you now look at where we are, we want to give a few of our folks an opportunity to continue to log in. It would be great if you are able to share this video with others. You all are going to receive some extremely important information that I think will kind of help give you some context as to the decisions we've made, in addition to where we believe we're heading as we get ready to move into the second semester and even further beyond. So thank you again for joining today. Let's just give it maybe another minute or so, and then we'll get right into the updates. So I'm wondering, without being able to have this information reciprocated to me, how people are doing, how you all are handling, navigating this national health pandemic. I know that it has been difficult for us as educators, but as parents, I am a parent of 2 kids still in the school system, but also a parent of a freshman in college who did not have an opportunity to have that rich first semester experience. She went to school to play volleyball and lost out on her season this year because of the virus. But then I'm also thinking about our kids, no different than yours, who have lost out on a lot of the social and emotional aspects of being able to be in school with their peers and with those adults that care deeply about them. So I get to see it from both sides, and then as a superintendent, being the individual that have to make these very difficult decisions, understanding that what impact this is going to have on our community as a whole has been critical. So I think at this point, I think we're ready to get started here. We should have a number of viewers that will continue to join. But what I want to do at this point is just give you an update. You all know back in March, we had to make a very difficult decision to shut down schools for the remainder of the school year. And that was in response to the national health pandemic with the COVID-19 virus. As we matriculated through, there was a lot that we've learned over these past several months. In particular, realizing that the school district did not necessarily have all of the resources needed to control for some of the variables that created further inequities within our community. So as a school district, it resulted in us having to pivot at a much higher rate, at a much faster rate, on making sure that we were able to utilize the digital instructional tools that we've had to offer the professional development that we needed to provide to our teachers, and also undertake significant digital conversion as a school district. Where are we right now? We have a number of students that now have access to a device, whether it's an Apple iPad or a laptop. Every single one of our students that need a Wi-Fi hotspot will have that. And even if you have multiple children in your home, you have the ability to have a hotspot for each child. So what that does is allow for our students to be able to hop online and do these types of activities with their peers. They also have the opportunity to make sure that they can access the curriculum digitally. I do want to remind everybody that we are at Central High School, and as we go through this process, I want to be able to share with you some of the work that we're doing here at Central High School, along with many of our other sites, to further support our community in times like this. So I want to get back to what I was talking about, leveling the playing field and making sure that every single one of our kids have equitable and fair access to being able to access the digital platform. And we feel good about where we are with that. We put in new learning management systems. We started the Kansas City Virtual Academy, where we are allowing for our students who want to stay in a virtual platform, they are able to do so for the entirety of the school year. And then we have our distance learning model, and that's the model where our teachers have their students of record that they're working with, and when we are able to come back into school, that's where they will continue to work with their teachers in a hybrid model. And so that's where we are right now. There's a lot that we've learned. There has been some struggles in terms of making sure that we have contact with all of our students. I want everybody to know this has not been perfect, but when we were doing this initially, we had about 55% of our kids that were logging in. We are probably hovering around 82%, and that's a significant increase from where we were, but we still have about 18% that we're looking for. I also want to make sure that you all are aware that we will allow for questioning and answering here in a little bit, because this is more about us hearing directly from you how things are going, and then to make sure that to the best of my ability that I can respond and give you all some answers to some of the questions that you have. While we are figuring out what's going to happen for the second semester, we did have an opportunity to bring in our early childhood students, and we did that back in September. So Richardson and Woodland are both open in a limited manner, and we have had some success with the kids being able to be in school on a regular basis. There have been times where we've had to quarantine a class or two, and anytime that we have adults that are in contact with someone that may be presumed to have the virus, it automatically requires that we have to go into quarantining, generally 10 to 14 days. The problem with that, and I think you will notice this with many of the other school districts in this area, is that it's not the kids that are creating this spread. It's coming from the adult, and it often comes from adults through their interactions outside of the schoolhouse. So many of the districts, and I commend them all for putting forth a valiant effort to try to have in person, you are seeing, because of the rise of the spread, that many of them are having to go back into a full-blown virtual model. And we did try as a district with our high-minute special needs students that are in our exceptional ed program to come back on November 9th, and we found ourselves with over 30% of our paraprofessionals and teachers being out because of quarantine reasons. That is the reason why we had to go back into a full-blown virtual model. But we think that we can learn a lot from how our early childhood centers are working as we think about the phase-in process for the second semester. So here's where we are as a district as far as wanting to bring students back. We've shared with our board and the community that February 1st is the start of the second semester. That is our target date. The problem that I will want to share with everyone is there is no guarantee. If the numbers are continuing to increase like they are right now, and we don't have a vaccine, which we believe will be here sometime in February, it's going to be very difficult for me as a superintendent to mandate that everybody come back, because we'll find ourselves back in the same situation where we'll be in a very volatile scenario where kids are in and kids are out. This is bigger than just teachers, everybody, right? We have one of the largest populations of employees in the state of Missouri. We're the 14th largest school district. We have custodians, bus drivers, food services employees, we have operational employees, central office employees, and then all of our educators and faculty and staff that work in our schools. And so minimizing the amount of adult contact is going to be the best practice for us at this point until there is a vaccine that comes out. And so my goal is February 1st to start phasing back in our younger students. But if the numbers don't improve, I just have to be very clear with everybody. I'm going to practice safety first. We're going to look at the number of patients that are in our hospitals. We'll continue to collaborate with Mark and our health officials here to make the best decisions to protect the interests of not only our faculty and staff, our students, but most importantly, our families. We do recognize that we have a large percentage of families within the school district where we have caretakers. And when we think about the caretakers, some of these caretakers are grandparents. They're older. And we don't want to put them in a situation where we're creating a situation where more of our students or more of our parents are getting sick. And then when you think about the disproportionality of the amount of African American families and even our Latinx and Hispanic families that are dying disproportionately from this virus, I happen to be one of the districts that serve one of the largest percentages of African American Latino employees in the state of Missouri. And so these are things that we have to take into account when we're making these decisions, in addition to the age of our workforce. We have a significant amount of our workforce that fall within that age range where this virus has been deadly. And so I just want people to know we're making those decisions based on data, and I think that that has worked extremely well for our school district. So I want to thank you for that. The other thing that I want to share with you is, as we are a school district, our school district has made significant progress, and I don't think that our community realizes where we are. We are in deep conversation right now with the Department of Elementary Secondary Education because our body of work over the last 3 years has shown this school district to be performing at or above accreditation status when we look at our 3-year average of data academically. Our district is at a 70.2%, and that's also including us not getting any points on the attendance factor, which is something that the state is looking at adjusting for the future, because we're in a school district where we have 40% mobility, and we do not have a lot of control over affordable housing. We have one of the larger students in transition populations in the state of Missouri. Those are homeless kids. All of that has a negative impact on our ability around attendance. But this district has done some phenomenal work, and I think that's something you all should be proud of. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to share some positive news with you all as we continue to get some more data that will come in within the next couple of days. We also have received our graduation rate data, and we are at our highest graduation rates since we started tracking graduation rates for school districts. When we started a few years ago, when I started here, we were at 68%. We are now at 74.8%. That just came out today, hot off the press. So we are graduating far more students than we did when we first started. Our academic performance has increased. We've earned exceed ratings in both math and reading for our students, so our student subgroups. We've also really did a phenomenal job with our science scores. The last time we took the science state assessment, we earned 8 points. We hadn't earned a point in science since 2014. So the systems that we put in place are paying dividends. The partnerships that we have within the greater community of supporting us with these initiatives has paid off. And I also want to update you on our advanced academic program. When I started in 2016, our team recognized that we didn't have kids passing the advanced placement examination. We've gone from 0 to 52 last year passing. Our World IB scores in our International Baccalaureate program is performing at World IB levels. We have more students taking these courses, but we also have more students earning qualified scores, which means that frees up them having to take some of those basic 101 level courses when they enter college, and they can move on to those 102 level courses because of the work that our educators are doing here. So I just want people to know there's a lot to be proud of about this school district, and the biggest thing that's getting ready to come in is a report that's going to come in from the Council for Great City Schools that is going to be able to provide all of the key performance indicators with our data to show the progress that we're making nationally against other urban school districts. So I'm just proud of where we are, and that's a testament to you all for your belief in this school system, and our faculty and staff that are in the trenches really making this happen. So I did want to share another piece with you. We are looking at learning centers, and these learning centers are going to allow for us to work with some of our students who are struggling. While we've provided hotspots and we provided devices, we still have families, depending on where they live, they're not necessarily able to penetrate the towers to have that access. So we have learning centers up and running right now in a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, in a partnership with Parks and Rec, and we just started a new one with the Salvation Army. That has worked out well for us for many of our younger students that are taking advantage of those slots that we have open. But we are also looking at exploring learning centers at several of our schools that would be able to work with no more than 100 kids that we feel that we need to target based on recommendations that will come from our schools and from our teachers, in assuring that we are trying to help some of these students that significantly need that support until we're able to get back into school. So one of the questions is, what are we doing to reach the 18% that are not logging in? Excellent question. We are working with our Student Supports Division. We are making home visits. We are working with our Students in Transition Director to talk about where are those students that we at one point could not detect and find. We've been able to find several hundred of those students. We are also working with our teachers as they continue to reach out and talk to family members to help support us with this. So it is a full-blown effort. It is student supports, it is school leadership with our deputy superintendent, our assistant superintendents, and then I'm also meeting on a weekly basis with our building principals to talk about where are we school by school in being able to identify our kids. It is important to note that that ratio is no different than what we generally deal with when we're in person. We have always struggled to try to make contact with anywhere from 15 to 20% of our kids, and we think with the system that we've now developed, hiring an attendance officer, hiring the additional people to work in our social-emotional the student support division, we have more of a robust human capital team in place now that can help us to address some of those needs in trying to identify our kids. All right, so preschool, quick review of getting them back. Excellent question. We are working right now with our director over our early childhood, and I just had a meeting with them a few minutes ago. We are looking at February 1st for the start of the second semester to open up several more sections. We have teachers that are willing to volunteer to come back, and we've already started having those conversations with them. So we believe that we'll have an opportunity to open up maybe 2 to 3 more sections, and we want you all to take advantage of that. There's a significant amount of onboarding that has to take place because at both Richardson and Woodland, we have systems in place in those schools that have prevented us from having to do the multiple closures. And so during the month of January, there will be outreach, and we will make sure that our parents know what's available so that you can take advantage of those slots that are going to open up. But we do have plans to expand our sections in our pre-K centers. So that's a great question. I know we have some more coming in, so while they are, my team, they're typing the questions, let me just kind of update you on a couple of other things. Enrollment, we have streamlined our enrollment program. We have received a significant amount of positive feedback that we've made the process more community friendly. We've been intentional about our enrollment processes because we know that there were some things internally that we did that in essence frustrated many of you and resulted in many of you just saying, let me go somewhere else, because there is a lot of school choice. Let me go somewhere else where it's a lot easier for us to navigate. So we've streamlined that process to make it more accessible to our families. We've made it more equitable to our families. And so what does that mean? We want to make sure that we've also eliminated this first come, first served basis for who gets to get into our schools. And we have approached it more just like our charters, where we will look at a lottery system that will allow for people, regardless of them getting in, first or last, that they have an opportunity to have a fair shot at the slots available for those schools of choice. It's important that we do this because we have some families that didn't have scanners at home. And if they don't have a scanner at home, they're not going to be able to be the first people to get their required documents in. And so we've changed our whole process to make it more fair and equitable. And I think that's something that our community can buy into, because it is about us addressing the inequities. And a lot of this came from several research companies that came in and gave us the data around the inequities that we've created through our systems not being more responsive to the community needs. Next question. Updates to air quality, ventilation in schools. So yes, we have consulted with the company, and unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the company. We spent a lot of money. Accutech. We brought Accutech in. They went into every single one of our schools. They gave us information that we provided that to our board and community at multiple board meetings. We've updated our buildings with MERV 15 filters. Those are the medical quality filters. So we've taken care of that. We've purchased ventilators, not ventilators, we purchased air quality, I can't remember the name of it, but air conditioning units and units that can allow for the classrooms where we are experiencing some of those air quality concerns. We have now sound ventilation within those classrooms, and that's the work that we've been doing. But we did hire a consultant to help us with that. So air purifiers is what it is that we've been able to purchase that you will begin to see in many of our classrooms as we are looking to begin to phase people back in, hopefully at some point during this second semester. I mean, so there's a lot of logistical things that we have to put into place, but just to answer that question further, we also know that our school district, we're running a school district with a lot of buildings that are older. But that's part of the reason is because we haven't been able to pass an operational bond, a capital project bond since 1967. So for many of our facilities, they are outdated, right? We're having to put significant money into these buildings just to make sure that we're able to meet these safety requirements. And so over time, we do have to begin to have this conversation with you all about at what point is it safe to say that we need to make sure that we can get a bond out here so that our kids can learn in 22nd century buildings, not 21st, 22nd century buildings, because that's what's missing here right now. What about bus transportation? So we know that at this point, without a vaccine, even if we are looking to bring kids back, before the vaccine is administered, that's going to have to be done on a hybrid level. And so when you're doing it on a hybrid level, that means 50% of your kids are going to be in person, 50% are going to be at home, distant learning. And so it would automatically allow for us to not have to have the buses filled to capacity, but also, my ask of you all is for the parents who have the ability to drop your kids off, support us. If you don't need to put them on the bus, don't put them on the bus, drop them off so that it will allow for us to easily practice social distancing. So there's some things where we are going to need your support as we begin to phase more and more students back into our schools. Next question. Update on food services and resources for families. Our food services division has been phenomenal. They have worked extremely hard. They have gone above and beyond. If you aren't aware, during the summer, we were doing these distribution sites where everybody had to drive to 4 sites to pick up breakfast and lunch. We've significantly reduced that piece because we felt that had created some level of inequity. So what we're doing now to utilize our employees is we deploy out our school buses into the neighborhood. We call it Meals on a Bus initiative. We have 2 of our food services employees on those buses, and we go directly into our communities and we distribute food. Here right now, this school is one of our staging sites for providing food for our families. And I don't know, Ms. Rachel, if we're able to share and show people what it looks like, but this is an opportunity here where our schools are going above and beyond with making sure that we are providing these additional resources to our families. And it's above and beyond just the breakfast and lunches, right? There's stuff here that we are providing through our partnerships with many of our community organizations to help our families out where they just simply can't make ends meet above and beyond the breakfast and lunch. So this is a prime example of what we've been doing to try to be more responsive to our community in meeting their needs. And it hasn't been easy. It's just none of this is easy. All right, so summer school format, alternative calendar, that's a great question. So we are in the process of wanting to engage our community with looking at an alternative calendar. We know that there will be learning loss. There's no doubt about that. So we want to explore some calendar options that may allow for us to recapture instructional minutes that would allow for us to be able to provide the resources and the intercessions that we may need to help accelerate learning in our school district. That will require that we have to look at things differently. And it's important for me to share this. I don't know that I want to go back to the old model of doing things. So when we get this vaccine, I don't know that we're ever going to go back to doing things the way that we've done it. I think we do have to explore doing some things differently, because the way that we've done things for the last 30 to 40 years hasn't necessarily yielded the kind of results that I believe this community deserves, that our students deserve. So we are going to engage you all. We started with our thought exchange, and we already are starting to get information back from you all around this very topic. So we believe during the month of January, we're going to give some examples of a couple of our calendar options that we would love to explore that we believe would help minimize or reduce the learning loss. So this question is, do students have to have the vaccine before they come back? Based on my conversations with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, that is not a priority at this point, because the data is not showing a significant spread within our students. It is the adults. And I think that if we take care of our adults, then they will be in position to be able to take care of our kids socially, emotionally, and instructionally. And so at this point, that's not a part of this phase 1B that the state is putting out. What the state is putting out is that they want to make sure that we get the adults taken care of first, because it's the adults that are the ones that have been passing away from this virus at an unprecedented rate. So that's where we are with the testing. We are looking to test some of our athletes. We do have some saliva testing that has come in, and we're working on that now, just because we know we do have athletes that are participating, and that would also, in my opinion, give us some good data that we can conduct action research on, you know, to look at what is the potential infection rate around our kids. We believe it's going to be pretty insignificant, because we just haven't had enough cases at this point. And even with all of the national studies, there's not enough to show a significance that the spread amongst kids is at a point where we have to vaccinate every single one of them. But the goal would be, we would want all of them vaccinated. So as I think about something that I've said, I've shared this throughout the pandemic around reimagining, reinventing what education looks like. There's been a lot of talk about how inequities have plagued school districts around the country, in particular school districts like the Kansas City Public School District. And I think as a school district, we have an equity policy. We don't want to be a school district that just focuses on having a policy, but there's no action behind it. So we are taking a look at our student code of conduct. We're looking at how it's written in a way that, by design, in my opinion, creates, a potential school to prison pipeline. It creates inequities and disparities around who gets suspended and who doesn't. So we got to take a look at those things. We also have to think about how our system has been built. And I've been the first to tell you all, when I came here in 2016, I didn't shy away from talking about the racial inequities. I didn't shy away around talking about the oppression, talking about this divider line that exists in this city. And I will not stop talking about that. But if we want Kansas City to be a great city that really can be open and accessible for all, regardless of what side of truth you live on, then we got to dismantle this system. We got to rebuild it, and we got to do it as a collaborative unit, because I want this system to work for all, regardless of how they show up, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of gender, regardless of their poverty level, regardless of parental educational attainment. We owe it to this city to redesign this system to be more responsive to making sure that we're reaching everybody through the value add that we deserve. And once we do that, this city becomes an attractive city for more businesses. It becomes an attractive city for more families who want to move here. It helps to reduce crime. But the results that we've been getting, those aren't because people just want to fail in this system, that people don't care about education. This stuff is built into the system. And we've come here, and in the last, I'll go even further than my 4 years of being here. There were people before me that started this work. And it's important to note that we cannot stop, we cannot be satisfied with this progress that we're making, because even if we get our accreditation here in the very near future, we're still not at state averages in how our kids are performing. We're not at state averages with how our kids are performing on ACT. So we can't let our guards down. We have to continue to push forward, but we also have to challenge this system in a way that will no longer penalize our kids because of who they are and how they show up. I am thankful, and I think this is another question that's come up. People were asking about our mental services and mental supports, mental health supports. I'm very thankful for the work that our Student Supports Division has done under the leadership of Dr. Letitia Woodley and her team. They've been very responsive to meeting the needs of our community. They provided telehealth services. They are going directly to homes and making home visits and checking on families. They are looking at the percent of families that are logging in and asking. There's a lot of depression right now that exists because of this virus, not only in students, but in the adults. And so people are being held hostage by this virus. And we have to make sure as a school district that we are doing our part to try to control for the social and emotional distress that has been imparted on our families. Our school district recently received a $3.2 million Victims of Crime Act grant. And with that grant, it has allowed for us to be more preventative in being able to identify the warning signs of depression and social and emotional distress. We've been able to beef up our staffing, and we now have people trained that are able to now go out and help work with our families. So I'm very thankful about that. As I talked about where we want to go as a school system here in the near future, we are now in year year four of implementation of our strategic plan. So as a school district, it is time that we begin to start engaging you all on the next 5 years of our strategic plan, in addition to our 10-year facilities operational plan to begin to modernize our buildings. So we started this engagement with a number of community members around Blueprint 2030. Blueprint 2030 is going to be interwoven directly into our strategic plan that we're building out, that would allow for us to talk about our 5-year academic plan that we have to continue to move this district forward, while also looking at the capital work that needs to be done. We need to become a more efficient school system. We're not efficient right now. It's going to be very difficult for me as a superintendent to ask you all to approve a bond, a capital project bond, and to ask the business sector to support that if we are not doing some of the internal things that we need to do to be more efficient. So Blueprint 2030 is going to allow for us to do that in a very strategic, professional way, but also in a collaborative way where we are able to engage you all in that process of being able to help us make the most informed decisions to advance this school district forward, so every single one of our kids have access to all of the amenities that our kids get in the suburban school districts. So the question is, how does the new enrollment process increase equity? So what we have right now is a first come, first served basis. And so what does that mean? If you have all of the amenities at home to do what you need to do, to upload documents, to get your proof of residency and all of these things that the district asks for, and you can do that through a scanner and upload it and get it right into our previous system, then for the families who don't have that, and what this pandemic taught me was that we were worse off than I even thought we were, right? So because we gave a lot of our kids these laptops to go home, we realized that 60 to 70% of our families still didn't have internet access at home. So if you don't have internet access at home, and we're basically telling everybody, you have to do this in a digital format, and then people don't have transportation to get here to do it in person. And right now, most people don't want to be out in person because of this pandemic. Those are the inequities that are naturally created by a system that didn't take into account what those who have are able to utilize for their advantage versus those who don't. So what we wanted to do was to say, it doesn't matter if you are first on the list or you're last on the list. If you get your enrollment stuff completed in a timely manner, then this enrollment process is going to then look at it from a standpoint of a lottery, which is a much more fair way to look at this. And it's also with all of these folks from these companies that came in, Hanover, one of the companies that came in and provided the evaluation of our enrollment systems, basically said Mass Insights, the same thing. These are major companies who do this around the nation with all of these districts, and they say your system is very inequitable. So we just responded to the feedback that we got from those companies who also engaged community members who offered the same sentiments. And so we are going to be more equitable in everything that we do. What about additional resources for parents? So we know right now we have Parent University. We're providing the technological support from our IT division. Many of our families are able to set up one-on-one appointments with our IT department. They are here to help you all. We still conduct home visits. I've seen many of our teachers go and do home visits to work with our families. I've seen pictures of them in driveways helping support our students. We also have supported our families through food needs, and even with some of our families that may be facing evictions, our school district has done a wonderful job of working with some of those families to try to help prevent that. We've been a huge advocate working with the mayor's office, working with KC tenants to fight against some of these evictions in times like this. And I think as a district, that helps to reduce the predictability of those who are going to fail, because the more mobile you are, the likelihood of you failing significantly increases, and that's research-based. So what are teachers and students telling me? This is a loaded question, and I have to be very honest with you all in my response. I have gone to schools and I have been in classrooms. I have observed teachers crying. I have observed teachers who are saying, I'm struggling having to teach on this digital platform. And straight up, I am an old school teacher, and then I've had to operate with a level of grace with our staff saying, I don't expect you to be a master of all of this overnight. You've been teaching for 32 years, and all of a sudden you're thrown into a digital world of teaching. But I do want you to be able to master one of these platforms and become good at it. I've seen teachers say that they're concerned that they're not able to make visual contact with their students, that's hurting them. I've talked to students who have told me that they are missing the social aspect of being around their friends, being around teachers. I actually spoke with two students yesterday that are Paseo students. One is a 10th grader, one is an 11th grader. They talked about their frustration with having to do their work online virtually, and they are ready to come back. And so there are also kids who have told me that they're thriving in this model because some of our kids are able to make ends meet with their families. Some kids are working and they're able to get their work done and they're thriving. So why would I bring those kids back into an environment that is counterproductive to them being able to still get their high school diploma while being able to help their family make ends meet? And so the district's we're going to have to be more responsive to understanding that we have to do things differently to serve our families based on what we've learned from this pandemic. What about free Google Fiber? So I'm working on that. I'm working on that with the Urban League and a number of other leaders here. We do believe that access to our families, the hotspots is a temporary deal. It's not permanent. We also know that not only while we've been advocating for what needs to happen in the urban school district areas, we are also fighting for rural school districts because many of those school districts are struggling because they don't even have towers enough to have that connectivity within their geographical areas. So the work that we're doing in that area right now is that we're trying to push federal and state level policy to make this a requirement. It's something that we absolutely need in our city to help address some of the inequities that exist. So we are working on broadband connectivity at a grander scale, and we will keep you all posted on that. But it also is going to require that we have advocates. Many of you are asking these questions. We need to be able to figure out who those people are that are willing to advocate on behalf of the Kansas City Public School District, to go speak to locally elected legislators, to go speak to those legislators in Jefferson City to help us to get some of this done. It's one thing for myself and staff members to go and testify to our elected officials in Jefferson City. It's a lot more powerful when we have parents who are willing to go and make that trip with us to testify on our behalf with some of these things that we need to have addressed by policy. So I know that we are putting up a couple of more questions, and as you all are typing them in, we're writing them down, so just bear with us on that. I know we have about 13 or 14 minutes left. So I did want to just say this as we continue to close out. I'll be very clear as we approach the holiday season. We know that this is going to be a tough season for many of our families. And as a school district, we want to continue to do what we can to work with many of our community partners to try to do what we can to help support you all as we go through these next couple of months. We know that our roles as adults in our community continue to be care and connection with our kids, and we will continue to have that focus. The thing that I have to ask you all to do, and I've said this multiple times, if we want our kids back in school, there's got to be a level of discipline within the community. If we don't have discipline within the community, where the spread is just out of control, you can't expect us to have schools open back up, because I'm not going to have enough adults to run operations. As I've said earlier, it's the adults. When you have to quarantine multiple adults and you don't have substitutes and you don't have people able to cover those adults, you can't keep schools open. It's just impossible. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm opening up school and then within 2 weeks or so, we're having to close it up. Or within that 2-week period, we've had to send your kids home multiple days because we just don't have the coverage. So there's a level of discipline that we have to display in this community if we are to seriously get these kids back into school, and we need your help. So one of the things that I will continue to promote is looking forward in this school district. We know that we're in a very competitive market, and you all are going to hear more and more around what this school district has to offer. There's going to be a whole different focus from a marketing and promotional standpoint on this school district. We know that we're in competition with many of our charters, but we also know that we're in competition with many of our surrounding school districts where many of our families are choosing to go to. So we want to make sure that we're going to put data out that allows for you to have a level of confidence that this school district is actually performing at a much higher level than what's being presented or what's being told. We have to eliminate this mindset that this is the school district from 10 to 15 years ago, because it isn't. Our data is very comparable to any school district in the state of Missouri that has a demographic like ours, and we can put that data out. We are no longer at the bottom of how we perform against school districts in the Council for Great City Schools. You all will get that report as soon as it's made available to us. We believe that there will be an op-ed that will come out to highlight that. There will be a big focus in our magazine that we've started, that we're sending out on a quarterly basis, that will highlight our data. You all will be getting that in the very near future. And then I think the thing that we have to do a better job of is articulating to you all the strengths that we have within our schools. We got some schools that are high-performing schools, yet we are losing students to some of our charter counterpoints, and I'm just going to be very direct, that academically they cannot compete with these schools. So we have to make sure that we are putting that data out, and then the thing that we have to focus on as a school district is to make sure that the culture and climate within our schools are welcoming, that is conducive to meeting the needs of the families that we serve. And when we do that, I think you all will see that the amenities that this district has to offer from an extracurricular standpoint, along with the academic progress that we've been making, that it's just a different school district. And that's the work that we have to continue to work on, marketing and promoting. Finally, in that area, I have to say that consistency with the superintendent. I am now in my 5th year here, and having that consistency has allowed for us to build out some solid systems that are producing excellent results, as I've stated to you earlier, around some of those academic progress areas that we've moved the needle in. But also, we're a school district now that many people are looking at some of our leaders for superintendent positions. And we've already, in my first 3 years, produced 2 superintendents out of this school district that are doing very well. And we believe that the work that we're doing right now is catching the eye of a lot of people, and it has allowed for this school district to no longer become a school district of last resort. We are a school district of choice now as far as the employees. We started this school year off with only 3 vacancies, teaching vacancies, art, psychology, and 1 counselor position. And that is kind of unheard of in an urban school district, but I think a lot of that has to do with the consistency that we have. We have a high-functioning board, a well-informed board. Go look at our archive board meetings. They ask tough questions. They stick to the strategic plan. They stick to the board goals that we have. So they make sure that they monitor us on a monthly basis. And they're not here just saying, let's just sit around and watch and see what they're doing. They are willing to be thought partners in helping us to advance this school district. I'm very proud of our business sector. They have given us a ton of money to help support initiatives that we would not have otherwise been able to afford, such as AVID, such as Justice in the Schools, the partnerships that we have now with School Smart KC, the partnerships we have with the Hallmark Foundation, the partnerships we have with Kaufman, the partnerships we have working with, the partnerships that we have working with our engineering firms here, Burns and McDonald, the partnerships that we have working with, I know so many of these different companies, but so many of these different companies, George K. Bond. So as I get ready to close out, I want to express my gratitude to many of the people in this city that have supported us. And I think sometimes you get in trouble when you start naming people. And I think there are so many different companies that have partnered with us, that J.E. Dunn, Community America. I don't want to leave people out, but there's a lot of people, the Kansas City Chiefs, individual people that have stepped up to support this school district through their efforts with mentoring. Thank you all for what you've done to help support us. And as I've said in our strategic plan, schools can't do it alone. We just can't. We have to have the support of the community. We have to have support of the business sector. We have to have a highly involved and committed board of directors working with us. And we have to have a committed faculty and staff that simply believe that our kids can do more than what people have given them credit for or what they ever thought that they could do. Our data is supporting that, but we have a long way to go. And I implore everybody not to let your guards down. Before you all exit out, I ask that you share this video with whoever needs to see it, any of the folks that you are associated with, because you're hearing it directly from the superintendent around where we are, the struggles we've faced, the progress that we're making, and honestly the bright future that we have ahead of us. But it's going to require us to make some very difficult decisions. And it may require that there's a level of discomfort. And I think it's okay. Discomfort is healthy if we're doing it for the right reasons. But we're going to have to do that if you all want this school system to become the top performing urban school district in this country that I believe it can become. We're going to have to do it together. So I want to thank you all. I do want to apologize for some of my stuttering and pauses, but this is an authentic conversation. There's nothing scripted about what I shared with you today. I just wanted to be very honest and authentic with you about where we are as a school district and what we're looking to do moving forward. So thank you, and I want to wish every single one of you a warm and wonderful holiday season.